rocket science, but
All right, it's recording now.
okay. All right. Well, Jeff, if it's all right, I'll go ahead and get started. Oh, hello. Hey, Turkisha. I didn't think you're going to be able to
Oh,
join us.
I didn't think so at first either. I'm gonna have to get off soon, but I
Sure,
wanted to
sure.
just drop in.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, we are recording, and this will be on YouTube later too. So if you do have to drop off, you can still view it later.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Jeff and I are here today to present on the Landlord Mitigation Reserve Program. I'm Cameron Drury with Division of Mental Health and Addiction. And Jeff is with IHCDA, and he'll introduce himself when he presents. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Can you see?
Yeah, if you go into presenter mode, I think it will be better. There you go. Yep.
All right. So what the Landlord Mitigation Reserve Program essentially is a program that we came up with along with IHCDA to incentivize landlords to make units, apartments available for folks who in their past have a felony on their record that in some way relates to their past substance use disorder, or substance issues. We're pretty generous with determining what is in some way related to SUD. So it's not strictly drug crimes, quote unquote drug crimes. It's a lot of crimes make you eligible for this program. And it was started. This has always been meant to be just a supplemental program to some of the bigger ones out there. And it was created because we were aware of certain people who had struggles with substance use disorder. And like, for instance, nurse lost her nursing license, not lost it, suspended. And she found recovery, got her nursing license reinstated through a difficult process, had plenty of means, but was unable to rent an apartment in her name. And essentially it's because this Scarlet F, the felony, follows a person for life. When they're doing their screening criteria, as soon as they see that felony, generally they toss it in the waste bin. So you're kind of locked out before you even have an opportunity. As most, if not all of you know, in our hierarchy of needs, according to Maslow, housing is right there with air, water, food. Vitally important, hard to do a lot of other things without housing. So we divided the roles and responsibilities with IHCDA, essentially DMHA, including myself. We determine whether an individual applicant is eligible. We maintain a list of eligible folks, share it with IHCDA as needed. We collaborate at least once a month with IHCDA on program changes, tweaks, trends, concerns. And just briefly, I'll touch on IHCDA's role in this as well. They're responsible for outreach and recruiting participating landlords. They hold and control the money essentially to pay landlords if there is a eligible claim. They receive and process those claims, and if needed, again, pay to reimburse these landlords. They will eventually report this to DMHA. They must maintain their own policy with this, and they, as I said, collaborate with us at least once a month. So once a person is considered eligible, it's up to them to find participating housing. IHCDA will release the names and address of participating landlords in their area. Oftentimes with surrounding county eligible landlords as well, just to give more options. And basically, whatever lease this person enters into is a normal lease, other than this slight little addendum um, that makes them eligible to rent when otherwise they would not be able to. And the landlord, um, if they participate with us, they agree to lower their screening criteria, um, kind of ignore uh, felonies on the record. We at DMHA think these people are great bets. We think they're going to do very well. But the landlord is highly incentivized to participate because we offer a generous amount of money if things don't go well with the person we approve. So again, the landlord is just going to have their normal requirements. They have to comply with federal and state requirements. Yeah, and Jeff will get into that a little bit here shortly. So the criteria for eligibility, as I said, must have at least one felony on one's record that in some way relates to past SUD. There can be no new charges or open warrants for at least 1 year. We need somebody to have a year of consistent employment with up to a gap of 1 month. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is it demonstrates, stability and that someone's doing very well in their recovery, but also this is not a funding program, so they must be able to pay for the unit themselves. These work requirements will be waived for folks on disability or 60 years or older. In addition to the felony and the employment requirement, we need them to have at least 1 year in treatment and or recovery. They must be in good standing with any criminal justice entities, probation, parole, work release, any and all other ones. And then this is really important, documentation of all of it. So in addition to applying with the application that's on our website, we need applicants to fill out a couple release of information forms so that we can just verify some of the information they provide. We'll be discreet. We don't share information with anyone. And a really cool development in this program is that we now will accept applicants who have as little as 6 months employment, steady employment, and 6 months recovery. It doesn't mean it's not a guarantee, but you are potentially eligible, and it's decided on a case-by-case basis. That really, really lowers the ask for applicants significantly. And then again, I have to remind that this is not a funding program. Sometimes people get little bits and details of this program and they think it's something it's not. And unfortunately, this is just a program to guarantee that somebody that we vouch for will abide by the terms of their lease and be a successful tenant. So here's the information on where to download the application, and has some more details, pretty similar to what I've shared today. And here's the mailbox that we need people to send the applications and release of information forms to. We will review and then accept or deny. If there's a denial, we will reach out to the person and explain why, or we may request additional information so that they will be ultimately approved. Once they are approved, we notify them. They will receive a signed certificate of approval, which they can then take to landlords in their area. It'll be signed by our director, Jay Chaudhry. They will receive a list of landlords, as I said, who are approved in their area. IHCDA will share that information. And again, the participant is responsible for going and seeking these people out and applying, and they share their signed certificate. That lets the landlord know that they are eligible. And again, this is just kind of the informational link, as well as place where you apply. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. He's going to speak on the landlord portion of it. Whenever you're, let me stop. Do you have control of it now?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. Is it showing my full screen or is it still in?
It's in it's not in
Yeah.
the presentation though.
Why is it not? Let me switch this, sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Should be good now, right?
Yes.
All right. So just quick overview. I'll kind of speed through this since a lot of it was already covered by Cam. Um, the main purpose of the program is to essentially offer insurance to landlords. So if they agree to accept one of the program participants into their housing, understanding that they're probably waiving some of their normal screening criteria, we are guaranteeing that if the tenant does cause any damages or they skip out on their lease earlier, we will make them whole for those damages or the remaining of the lease break fee, etc. Um, we'll get into a little bit of those eligible reimbursement expenses later, but the main point is to tell a landlord that we're vouching for this person. We are guaranteeing payment for any damages or lease break fees that may occur, so that it's a safe bet for them to waive their normal screening criteria that they may have. Our view is that a lot of these participants are most likely going to be possibly even lower risk than their normal folks that are applying, just because we have verified that they've been in recovery and treatment. They have full-time employment for 12 months. Some of these screening criteria are actually possibly higher than their normal screening criteria. It's just that felony piece that they would be screening out for, and then missing all the other good things that we're verifying in their eligibility. All right. Cam touched on all the eligible household stuff, so I'll skip this and go on to eligible landlords and lease requirements. For this program, basically any landlord is eligible. There's only two exceptions to that. Obviously, the property needs to be in the state of Indiana, and then also the landlord cannot be suspended or debarred by IHCDA. That's pretty unusual. There's not all that many landlords in the state that are suspended or debarred by us. Typically, if they are, it's because they've had properties that have repeatedly failed inspections for our other programs, or they've had other noncompliance for our programs. But the vast majority, or that short's very, that list is very short relative to how many landlords there are in the state. And then the second requirement is that the landlord needs to sign the lease addendum for the program. That lease addendum will go over the description of eligible reimbursement and the reimbursement process. So what documentation the landlord needs to submit to be reimbursed for any damages or lease break fees. A prohibition on leasing to relatives under the program without prior IHCDA permission. So we're not going to, offer to reimburse someone if they're renting the unit to their daughter or son, and they do damages. That's not something that we'd be willing to cover. And then it establishes a cap of $2,500 on total reimbursement. We can waive that on a case-by-case basis, but that is the standard cap. And then it also avoids any items in the lease that would violate Indiana state codes, any fair housing violations in the lease or other issues that would violate Indiana state code normally. All right. To go in a little more in depth into eligible reimbursements, we will, essentially cover all the usual lease violation fees or damages that are covered. So if an individual abandons the unit and owes unpaid rent, we'll reimburse the landlord for up to 2 months of rent, not to exceed applicable HUD published fair market rent. So we're not going to pay, um, a luxury apartment rent for 2 months. So it's only going to be up to fair market rent, which is typically pretty comparable to what a break lease fee would be. Um, any fees associated with the tenant breaking the lease early, not to exceed amount of equal to 2 months rent. And then damages beyond normal wear and tear after the tenant has moved out, not to exceed the lesser of documented costs or repairs or $2,500. And that's after they've, charged any security deposits. So, it'd be $2,500 that will reimburse after they've deducted from the security deposit already. And then ineligible reimbursements. Obviously, we're not going to cover any repairs of damages that existed prior to the tenant assigning the release. Um, uh, you know, Damages or repairs of ordinary wear and tear. So those are the things that a landlord does every time they turn over a unit. We're not going to cover those things. Any cost incurred for an eviction. So if they had to pay legal fees or court fees to evict a tenant, we're not going to cover that. And then we're not going to cover lost rent post eviction. Cam already touched on roles and responsibilities, so I'm going to skip over this. That's also already been touched on. So for landlords, they are not required to let us know that they're willing to participate. We really, we try to keep a list of landlords that have expressed interest in participating so that we can share those with our participants and make them aware and send people their way. But also a participant is welcome to attempt to lease a unit anywhere and, give the landlord our contact information if they have not heard of our program before, so that we can talk to them about the program. Uh, I'm also over IGDA Section 8 program and some other rental assistance programs. And what we find is that really the best tool for recruiting new landlords to programs are the participants. There's no substitute for them going there in person, talking to a landlord, and having that face-to-face interaction and being able to convince the landlord that they are a good bet, that they're someone that's worth taking a perceived risk on, even if we don't consider it to be an actual risk. So, we encourage our participants to continue doing a housing search like they normally do. We'll try to help them out by giving them landlords that have indicated that they are interested in participating. But a lot of times it's that, face-to-face interaction between a landlord and a participant that really gets the landlord over the edge and to say, yes, I'm willing to waive my normal screening criteria and accept you in the program. And then, this is just a tool the participant has when talking to the landlord to encourage the landlord to waive the normal screening criteria and convince them that they will not be, more of a risk than their normal tenants would be. But if a landlord is interested in participating and wants us to be on that list that we share with participants, um, we just need some basic information from them, name of the primary contact for them, so either themselves or a property manager, business name, phone number, email, and then also we want to get an idea of um, the total number of units that they have, the bedroom size mix of that, and then also what areas those units are in, so that when we have a participant looking in their area, we can appropriately match them with landlords. We don't want to send them a list with landlords that only have 1-bedroom units if they need a 2-bedroom unit. Um, and then as well, I'm also going to pull up our website for it. On there, there's some of the documentation that landlords often have questions on. So I just want to, share that that's all publicly available. The only other note on our landlord list is we do not share that publicly. We understand that, um, there's a stigma around this population, and we don't want a landlord to be labeled as, you know, or have a perceived label of housing certain types of people. So that list is always kept private except for being shared with participants. All right, so really quick, this is the lease addendum that we require tenants and landlords to sign when they begin the program. I'm not going to go through it in great detail, but just to show that it's kind of a pretty simple document. It's only 4 pages long. It requires a signature from IHCDA, the tenant, and the landlord. And then this just gets attached to the lease document. So once a participant leases a unit, they would just submit this to IHCDA with a copy of their lease so that we have on file that they are a participating tenant. And then if any claims need to be made in the future, the landlord would just reach out to us and provide documentation of damages if they were incurred, which could be just invoices or receipts from contractors or for materials that they purchased, or if it's a case of a lease being broken early, a copy of the lease agreement so that we can see what the applicable lease break fee is. So that's kind of the quick rundown of the program from IHCDA's side. I think me and Cam can take any questions now before we.
I think it's just you
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
at this point.
So I don't know, Cam, did you have any normal frequently asked questions that we should go over?
One thing occurred to me. First of all, great job. Very informative, and I like that you show the application. That's I may do that moving forward. But there is one disqualifying felony charge, and that's arson. Just to be fully transparent. But I think that's all I have. It's fairly straightforward. I think people just need to keep in mind that this is not for everyone. This is for a very particular type of person, or at least at a point in their recovery. Is sort of what this is geared for. But for those people, it's hugely beneficial because basically there's no other way for them to lease a unit in their name. So I think that's all I have on the DMHA end. Jeff, do you have anything?
Nope, that's all. I'll work to get this edited a little bit and then post it on YouTube so that we can share it with our relative partners and email list.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you all
Sam.
for watching.
Yep. Bye.